Hey, I'm Eddie Capparucci, and welcome to another edition of Getting to the Other Side, helping couples to navigate the road to recovery. This program is designed to help those who are struggling with sexual addiction or pornography addiction, as well as their partners who are dealing with the betrayal, to navigate that road to recovery and to bring them to a place that offers healing, forgiveness, and hope for a new beginning. We understand that road is challenging and it's filled with many potholes and barriers along the way. So hopefully these segments, as well as other segments that appear here, are all things that you can use, a bunch of different tools that are out there that can help you dealing with that. So we have a really interesting and extremely important topic today. A client recently said to me, he'd come to the understanding that honesty is the portal for comprehensive recovery. And I thought summed that up so well. And it is completely true that if you look at it, what got us got you folks and all of us who've been through this, what got you there in the first place? It was not being able to be honest. And therefore, that dishonesty, that deceit, all the lies that build over time have created this entangled web that you're now trying to figure out, how do we pull apart and be able to get ourselves in a safe place. But it is true that the portal here is honesty. We need that in order to have comprehensive recovery. So you may ask, okay, what do you mean by comprehensive recovery? Well, I'm a firm believer that our recovery process can't be just eliminating or learning to manage the destructive behaviors. There has to be a more comprehensive transformation in an individual. And some of the keys to that transformation include, one, improving and strengthening the emotional IQ. We talked about it on the show before, being able to really drill down and understand, what am I truly feeling at the moment, beyond the core emotion, primary emotions of anger, fear, sadness, happiness. What are those true things that I may feel somewhat humiliated? I may feel bitter. I may feel embarrassed. And then also being able to share those emotions, which again requires us now to be vulnerable. Folks who get locked in addictive behaviors, especially here when it comes to sex addiction and pornography addiction, vulnerability is a dirty word. We do not want to make ourselves vulnerable. We are trying to hide everything. We're trying to mask everything. We want to keep it all in the dark. And now this is part of the transformation. I need to be able to express that and put that out there. But more importantly, I need to also be able to manage other people's emotions when they come at me, and not to get into a place where I just want to shut that down. I want to minimize it. It's not really that important. I don't know what you're worrying about. Or, oh, I got a solution. Let's fix it. Instead, we have to learn how to validate. Oh, okay, that sounds really hard or difficult. Tell me more about that. Or your pain that you're feeling. What color would you give that? Or what kind of shape, if you had to come up with a shape? See, the idea of being curious. We're not curious when we're dealing with this addiction. And we need to become more curious. We need to be looking outward. It's about also the idea of not just being present, but being engaged, being there for someone, not removing ourselves from inside our head, and to be here looking outward of what are the wants and needs of everyone else. And again, that's kind of hard, because we've grown up with the behavior of just head down running through life. And we need to change that. We need to alter that. And that becomes the key to being mindful and to understanding. I understand all of these behaviors I have that basically don't strengthen relationships. That's what we're talking about here. We're talking about the inability to engage with and nurture a healthy relationship because we don't have those tools to be able to do it. And being mindful of the fact that, oh, I really lack this. I need to focus more on it. I need to focus on the ability of, oh, tell my partner, you know, wow, you look wonderful today, or you know what, talk to me about how your day is gone, versus I just put my head down and I go over to the couch and watch TV or go lock myself away to do video games or get on my phone. You know, as we talked about many times, you come home, put the phone away. Put it away for a while. All right. If you need to go there periodically to check on things for work or whatever, fine. Just let that be known, but then we're going to put it back. So, those kind of things that we're trying to change, but also with that is being honest. And honesty really is the foundation and the cornerstone of all relationship. A quote that I found that I thought was really very insightful said, "Healthy relationships of all kinds are usually composed of honesty, trust, and respect." Think about the situation you're in right now, especially for those of you who have betrayed. Honesty, trust, and respect. We've violated all of those, all three of those. And that's why now as individuals, we need to be able to put that out there to say, these are three things that I am going to hold on to with my heart. And I am going to be very mindful that I need to be completely transparent with all of this. I need to be honest about everything. I need to be able to build that trust. And I also need to show respect. And I show respect by honoring my partner. I show respect by not being so focused on what I want and need, but instead, what is the wants and needs of them. Those who've been betrayed, okay, or those who betrayed, they haven't been honest, as I said. And for many cases, for these individuals, this is nothing new. I refer to it as hide and lie, okay? It is something that was learned when we were very, very young. And for example, a client of mine who, when he was growing up, and he had a stepmom, and his stepmom had brought two other children into the marriage. They were her own children. And what happened constantly for him was he was always being blamed for actions that the other two kids had done. So therefore, for him, it was the sense of, you know what, unjustly accused. Doesn't matter what I say. It doesn't matter what I do. I'm going to be accused of it. I'm going to be in trouble with this. So therefore, he came to this idea of, one, I'm going to hide. I'm going to lay underneath the radar. I'm going to fly under the radar. Not going to make myself as visible as I really should. And two, I'm not going to be transparent. I'm not going to be sharing a lot of things, because no matter what I share, it can be twisted and manipulated. And therefore, again, accusations are made toward me. Many people get into and they develop a sense of learning to lie because, especially with little things, because they're so fearful of getting in trouble. And I see this a lot with clients, especially those folks who have done the betraying. They could be on the right path when it comes to having sexual integrity, doing the right things, but then it comes to little things and they're still lying about them. And, maybe you went to the GNC store and you bought some supplements, for whatever it may be, weight loss. But then you just dash them away. You don't say anything. And then, your spouse sees a receipt on the bill and says, what is this for? Oh, I don't know. I don't remember. And then her checking it out. Well, the supplement. Oh, that's right. Yes, I did. So you're undermining everything you've been doing that has been proactive for your sexual integrity. Because again, it goes back to what I was saying earlier. You can change that behavior, but if you don't change other aspects of you, who you are, destructive attribute that you have to the individual who has been hurt, it's like, what is really changing here? I don't see anything really changing. And when you continue with the betrayal, the lies, they keep growing. We've seen the lying develop and continue with disclosures, right? I disclose, and I disclose that much. And then all of a sudden something else is found out, and it's like, oh, okay, well, yes, that's right too. There's that part. I forgot about that part. And then something else leaks out, and oh, I forgot about that part. Once again, what's happening is you're reinforcing the concept of someone who's not honest. And the lack of honesty, no matter again, whether you've taken care of these sexual integrity issues, whether you've been able to manage them, you could be managing very well. But if those issues are still there when it comes to overall honesty, the person, your spouse, is going to think you have not changed at all. And in a way, they're absolutely right. All you've done is you've learned how to manage this one behavior. But there are many other behaviors that are still there. And especially, we've talked about it, folks, right? We've said that the lying and the deceit is even more destructive and more hurtful and more painful than the actual betrayals that have been done from a sexual standpoint. So if you're continuing down that pathway, and then you're wondering, you're saying, hey, wait a second, I don't understand. Why am I not getting any credit here? I've stayed away from porn for 6 months, or I haven't even been to a massage parlor in a year and a half, or oh, I've been good. I've done what you asked me to do. Wrong. You couldn't be more wrong. You haven't done what they asked you to do. What you've done is you've changed one behavior, but you haven't transformed your heart to say, you know what? Yeah, I get anxious and I get fearful when I need to go and point something out and say, hey, you know what? I did this because I'm fearful that I'm going to get in trouble for it. But see, that's about emotional maturity. And that's another thing we're trying to accomplish here, to become emotionally mature, to understand that, yes, I can come to you and I can tell you, hey, this is what I've done. I told you some of my story before, that I, blew through a couple marriages because of my infidelity and my lying and all of that. And my current wife, I've been married to her for 23 years and been faithful the whole time. You shouldn't have to brag about that, but it is the case. But, the other thing too is I've always been honest with her about everything. And there's been times I've been honest about things and I've gotten grief back. And it's like, oh, why did I even tell her that? But then I always come back to no, because I have to. See, if I can keep a lie, if I can keep one lie, oh, then maybe I can keep 2 lies. And then 3 and 4 and on and on and on. You can continue to store them up versus, no, I have a clean slate. And so therefore, yes, I tell her things that I know is not going to get the greatest reaction because I decided to handle something one way or do something. But at least I know in my heart, I am being transparent and open. And that's what she wants more than anything else. And also, I'm not taking, and you've heard me say this to you folks before too, I'm not allowing my emotions, my fear, and my worry to trump what she needs. And she needs my transparency. She needs that availability. So again, we go back to the idea of, why are we not honest? Well, really, it's part of it is an ingrained habit for many of us. And as I said, when we were growing up, for all those various reasons I just talked about. But also it may be that I hear this quite often. Well, I don't want to hurt her or him anymore. I don't, I've hurt them enough to tell them that I just can't do that. And, and I was like, always give the same answer. I go, that's wonderful justification that you've done. you just did a beautiful job of justifying why I should not be honest because, it's going to cause more pain. What do you think it's going to cause when they find out that you have been lying more? That's where the real pain is. See, they will, even if you get whacked because of you coming out and saying something and telling and being honest, you're delivering another message. And that message is, hey, I'm being vulnerable. I'm being open. Even though I know this is going to cause you some discomfort, I'm probably going to get discomfort from it. I can do this and I will do it because the honesty and building your trust and having your respect is more important to me than anything else. And so therefore it becomes the idea of we got to get away with this excuse of I don't want to hurt my spouse any longer. And the other aspect of it too is sometimes we just can't be honest with ourselves. We just don't want to admit the fault. We have done such a great job of putting on the facade, the mask of, I'm okay. Everyone else is an issue and a problem. I'm okay. And until you get to that point, when you get to the point where you say, I need to be completely honest with myself, you're going to continue to struggle. And the reason we don't want to be honest with ourselves is because if we look deeper, it gets really ugly. It gets ugly. But I mean, that's part of our brokenness. And God understands that we are broken creatures. And that's okay. Everybody's broken in a way. But we need to do that self-reflection. We need to do the work, the hard work to look deeper, to understand why. Why am I the way I am? And again, that's part of the new book that I've had about going deeper, how the inner child impacts your sexual addiction. It is all about understanding the core root of what has gone on, what's gone wrong in my life. But the idea is that we go to the idea that, if the betrayed can't see that their partner has changed and that they can be honest, even if facing consequences, again, how are they going to know or how are they going to believe that any behavior has changed? And that's why I think I shared this story maybe in one of my earlier webinars was, I had this client who said to me, she goes, my husband's sitting here and he's telling me that he's no longer chatting with females, online. He's no longer looking at pornography. He goes, but I still see the same man in front of me. And what I mean by that is I still see the guy who seems to be withdrawn at times. I see the guy who can't get the phone out of his hand. I see the guy who doesn't seem to be very engaged with the family. I see the guy who's not aware of what my wants and needs are. I see the same guy. But that he's telling me I should be believing him because he's telling me I don't look at porn any longer and I'm not chatting with people. He goes, but you know what? Why should I believe that? He was telling me that before. I need to see more. I need to see something different. And again, as I said to you before, you may be sitting here wondering, how come I'm not getting any credit? And I hear that all the time. Why am I not getting credit? I go, well, you're not getting credit because you've just looked at one aspect and you're not changing everything overall. See, we're going to that new relationship, right? That part of where we're going, we're talking about we need to go someplace new, someplace different. And with a new relationship, it has to be something where it is composed of honesty, trust, and respect. So how do you earn trust? Well, I got a few ideas here for you. One, as I said before, about facing who you are, admit your failures. Oh, I had a relapse and I looked at porn. Okay, so did you tell your wife? Oh, I can't tell my wife. What do you mean you can't tell your wife? Oh, it'll hurt her. We go back to that. Like, what about transparency? What about honesty? Yeah, but she's going to be really upset and disappointed. Yes, she is. But what is, again, is the underlining message you deliver? Oh, I'm telling her the truth. We have to admit our failures. I remember one guy who came to me once and one of his affair partners sent him a text. And he got it just as you're walking in the door of the session. He goes, oh my gosh, you're not going to believe this. I just got this text. I go, oh, okay, what are you going to do with it? He goes, oh, I'm going to delete it. I said, I don't know about that. Said, what do you mean? He goes, I think I'd take it home and show your wife. He looked at me like I had three eyes. He goes, what are you talking about? Why am I going to show? I go, because you're being transparent. He goes, yeah, but she may get upset. I go, she may get upset. She may very well get upset. But again, that underlining message was really important. And that's what he did. He went home, he showed her, she was upset. But then that night, she came to him and said, thank you. Thank you for doing that. I really appreciate it. And he saw, ooh, wow, you know what? It really does. I need to be able to reach out and tell her when things like that happen. You need to be an open book about everything. Again, it's not just like, oh, what am I doing in the area of my recovery and how am I doing in not engaging that kind of behavior? You have to be an open book about everything that's going on. That's another important point of how do you earn trust. You start to show that you're vulnerable. You show that you understand the depth of the betrayed pain. You understand what the depth of the pain is. And I understand. For some of us, it's hard to understand because we don't have those emotions and feelings. All we see is anger and hostility. Well, you know what? If you don't understand, find out. Find out. There's a lot of good books that are out there about what, the partner's going through who've been betrayed and how the trauma that they are suffering. Find out. There's a lot of good articles that are there that you can read on what I can do to be able to help them by just being there. Because that's about all you can do at this point. If they're grieving, you're going to be there and you are going to validate that you understand the pain. So make the attempt to find out and discover. As I said before, be curious. Ask about, the pain. What does it look like? Give me a word picture for all of it. Another thing you do, again, I go back to the point of don't let your emotion trump theirs. I had a case where woman, she was triggered about 8 months after the D-Day, and when they were passing a hotel that he had visited with one of his partners, and she was very upset, and he started questioning him for like 20 minutes. And then he became upset because he kept saying, I can't take this again. You should be getting over it. I'm starting to feel guilty. You're making me feel guilty. She's triggered because she passes a hotel that you were in with another person. And she's upset, but you're more concerned about the fact that you feel guilty. What does that say? That is our emotional immaturity just flowing out of us. And again, I can understand why it's there because no one taught us how to manage those pains, but we need to learn that process, not to allow our emotion to trump theirs. Another thing we could do is to figure out, why did your pornography or sex addiction begin in the first place? Why did it have a stronghold on you? And as I said, my book is a good resource for helping you there. You can also, do it by, you show, how do you deal with discomfort? How do you manage discomfort? Are you still trying to run away? Are you still like binging on TV now? Are you raiding the refrigerator more often? Are you, stuck in video games or on the computer or whatever, playing games? What are you doing to deal with that discomfort? I had a client and his wife, they're separated for about 6 months, after he had an affair. And he was trying so hard to push her to reconcile. And she really wasn't ready because she hadn't seen the changes in him. And so every time they'd be getting on the phone, which would be about twice a week, he would just start, when are we going to start to do couple counseling? When are we going to start to get together and have dinner? When are we. And he was demonstrating, I can't handle this discomfort. She's discomfort also. She's hurting also. But he was more focused on his discomfort. So we need to be able to show that, you know what, again, I can push my feelings back here and I can focus on yours. A couple other things that we can be doing to build that trust is to show the other changes. As I said, improving that emotional connection, initiating things like dating and events, being able to focus outward. What are things that he or she would like? One of my clients actually was just this week, he's talking about, he goes, you know what, I just don't really like to give or receive gifts. And his wife does, she likes gifts. And, he goes, yeah, but I just don't care. And after she discovered the pornography was, part of what was going on here, he realizes now, after we've talked about this, that he needs to change to see what her needs are. And so therefore, because gift giving is important to her, and I'm talking about even on things like birthdays or Christmas, he just felt like, it's not a big deal. You give a card, you're done. She grew up in an environment, she grew up in a home where birthdays were a big thing. And now she gets married and birthdays were just kind of cast off. He needs to make a change. And the change is, how does she like to celebrate birthdays? And although that's not what I particularly care for, I want to meet her needs. So therefore, we talked about that whole process of what to do and the fact that, he needs to be able to look to see, can I do more of that for her? And then finally, to take an active role in demonstrating that you're available and that you're not going to abandon your partner again. And this is really critical, because I understand that we all get caught up in life. There's a lot of things that are on our plate, and it's very, very easy to get distracted and to move backward. We cannot do that. Your commitment has to be to your relationship and to your partner. And what you're now saying by doing that is, because remember, before you were running off, whether it be pornography or other sexual activities, and you were abandoning them. And now what you're saying is, no, I'm here. And I'm not going to abandon them. Stella Elliott, she wrote a book called Positively Christian. And there was a wonderful quote from here, and it was, honesty, truth, and decency all linked together. By loving all of these, we can improve our families, our communities, and our society. So that's all I got for you this week, Tammy.
So for those of you that are joining us live, I've added a lot of things to the chat, including like that last quote. And great stuff. And I 100% agree that honesty really has to be, the cornerstone. And like you mentioned early on, the partners consistently say, I can even tolerate the affairs, the acting out, but the lies, that's what just erodes the relationship. So, and you talked about what is the color of your emotion, and that caught me off guard, because I was like, wow, to think about it in a very visual sense. But I think that that's a really helpful tool, because I remember so strongly having the inability to even identify what emotions I was experiencing. So having somebody ask me a question like that, I'm sure I could have plucked out, I'm really angry, so I'm red, or whatever it was. So I think I loved how you talked about being curious. Expressing empathy, that sounds very difficult for you. But I also thought, it'd be really easy to go, well, that sounds difficult for you, or whatever. So like having the ability to be in the difficult space, looking someone in the eyes and go, that sounds really difficult for you, and really being genuine about that, tell me more, but I also thought how, addicts, if it's our goal not to experience negative, no wonder we lie, compartmentalize. Oh shoot, sorry. I was muted the whole first half, no calls. And so then what happens? But anyway, sorry. But the inability to be okay with staying in the uncomfortable, when you were talking about, it sounds like a really good reason. Oh, I don't want to hurt my partner. I don't, so I'm not going to tell. And I wrote BS, but, I was like, yeah, I mean, we can come up with all kind of justifications, like even using the steps, except when it would hurt someone else, it's not about hurting someone. We want to protect ourselves. We don't want to get ourselves in trouble. But, I was thinking it's challenging, I think, for addicts to understand how important this is. It's like, why would they want to do the hard work of being uncomfortable, of having to put up with all of that, so having an addict understand how important honesty is and how important rebuilding trust is, that feels like the first hurdles, how to, to have the comprehension that it really is the foundation and cornerstone of a relationship. And if you don't rebuild those, like you talked about, if there's no change in behavior, then there's no reason anyone should trust you, or trust us if we, if our lips are moving and saying one thing, which that happened all the time, and, oh, now you can really trust me. Well, no, because your behavior is not congruent with being able to trust you. I was thinking about the, well, let's see, I wrote notes. So, I gotta see here. Oh, when you're talking about the, like she likes gifts and he doesn't value that, Gary Chapman wrote the 5 Languages of Love. And I read that a long time ago. And that was really helpful for me. Just, in communication styles too. It's like people have different communication styles. I forgot, I was tested, I guess, or assessed or whatever. And I'm all like, give me the shortest amount of information you possibly, like, just to convey the thing, the message in the most abbreviated fashion. And I have friends that are like that. It's like, we can text and we understand it. And then I've got a whole bunch of people in my life that are a different, way. And so like I would write my message and then I'd go back and I would write in, how are you doing? Da, 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 da. Because I knew I needed, in order to support that relationship, I needed to not come off as abrasive or abrupt, but rather speak their language. And I think the languages of love, I have people that are all into gifts. My husband and I, that isn't important to us, but I've always said, I love a man with dishpan hands. Like if he does the dishes, like, wow, I'm super ecstatic, so anything where he helps, out in a menial task way, like I'm over the moon, that, he doesn't have to buy me expensive things or, little gifts or whatever. So, but if I have people that, that's really important to them. So I make sure that, I am, if I'm expressing something to them, that there is a gift that is part of that. So it's just understanding that it isn't all about me, and, gifts are irrelevant. I don't care about that. No, like that's important to other people. And so if I want to be in community with other people, speaking a language that resonates with them will help us, best navigate, our relationship.
Right.
So,
But see, that's part of the big issue that we have here is that most people who struggle with addiction, life has always been about them.
oh,
They've made it about them.
yes. But
They make,
addiction does that. The
right.
reality addiction, makes us be all about ourselves, all about compartmentalization, all about like we have to keep doing the addiction, and that means we have to shut everybody else out because they might intrude on our ability. So,
Right. So
yeah.
that becomes a whole new way of living, of life, that goes against the grain of the person who has the addiction. And therefore, and that does take time. We need to be able to give somebody, as I say, nobody's going to be perfect with this, but I want to at least make sure, if let's say somebody does come home and they just immediately go off and withdraw, that at some point very soon they realize that, ooh, wait a second, what did I do? And then come back and say, hey, sorry about that. It just kind of, that moment. And therefore, here I am now, though. And just to be able to catch yourself.
Yeah.
And, again, if you can get up to 7 out of 10 times you're doing the right thing, you'll get grace the others. You'll get grace for those. I mean, even though we should be aiming for 10 out of 10, but that's okay. We understand that this is all learning to adapt to a new style of living that we're just not accustomed to. And it does cause anxiety. So therefore, we want to go back to something that seems more calm, seems more relaxed. I don't have to work at it. But that's the whole idea of, again, the relationships. We don't realize, or we don't know how to really do healthy relationships. And so now, boy, you're going to learn now how to do that.
And I think early on, if you do 3 out of 10, at least someone is seeing that you're making progress, and if we're human, we're going to make mistakes. I'm going to miss something, just because like I may be, really focused on something, and I may say or do something, I've had that. Fortunately, I work with a lot of people that are willing to go, hey, what you said, bothered me, and let's talk about it. Well, great. And, I can own that. Often it's like it was an unintentional, but I understand that it, hurt somebody. Let's work through this. So, when you were talking about, I know the other one, I was like, we were talking about the hotel situation, and she was triggered when they drove past that, and you should be over this. It's been long enough and all that. And I get both of that, her being very triggered and him being unable to tolerate the guilt, that, the pain that it caused her, the guilt that his behavior, all of that is so typical and problematic. And, if addiction is all about escaping and not dealing with those emotions, especially, 8 months is good, you get chips for that, but it's not, that you don't have the whole big tool belt full of tools and to be able to tolerate and understand, this is still, I'm dealing with the pain that I caused. It won't always be like this, but I need to just understand that this is, really difficult for her.
And in that case, which was very positive, he realized in a short period of time he was not acting appropriately, was not doing the right thing. It was him trumping her, and he came back to her later and apologized and said that was not the way to handle that situation. I'm very sorry. So that was an example of, again, growth. It wasn't immediately there at the time, at the moment when she might have needed it. Still was able to come back and say, hey, you know what? I understand I did not do this the right way.
Yeah. Well, and just I understand I did not do this very well. like, you know,
Gives
I'm
hope.
learning what would have helped you more, like the being curious, like you talked about, in that moment, what would have helped me better support you and understand what you were doing, and even if it's like not in that moment, so that extra emotion situation, the extra volatile situation is past. I mean, I find a lot of times it's so much better, to, when it isn't all charged up, to be able to revisit, and kind of go, okay,
Mhm.
I didn't do that really well. What would have been more helpful, so that I can do it better next time.
Right. Looks like we got a bunch of
We do
questions
have some
piling up,
questions,
huh?
so let's get started on those. My husband likes to twist the concept of truth. I have boundaries in place that says if he looks at porn, I won't sleep in the same bed with him, but he calls them ultimatums and accuses me of being controlling because I told him he could not, or he could have porn or me, but not both. He uses truth against me by saying, one day I'm not going to honor your ultimatums, and when I get upset, he says, this is why I can't be honest. You tell me you want me to be honest, but you get mad when I tell you the truth.
Okay. I mean, I see emotional manipulation that's going on here. Boundaries there are ultimatums that come with boundaries. So in a way, he explained
Consequences, it's
there
really
needs
just
to be
consequences of the boundary.
consequences. There has to be if you don't have consequences, you don't have boundaries.
Correct.
So therefore, that needs to be part of it. But the idea that he, as opposed to looking at, again, himself and his behavior and seeing that he's going against what you're looking for and understanding, oh, there's the problem. The problem is he's violating the boundaries. The problem isn't that there are boundaries. And again, there's a lot of emotional immaturity that is here. And this is an individual who still hasn't gotten to that point that I said before. He has to look inward to say, okay, what is my fault here? What am I doing wrong? You know, I'm sure, Tammy, you've seen it. I know I've seen it. There are some people who are just not going to get it. I'm not saying he's one of those, but there are some people who just never get it. They don't want to move out of this, entitlement sense of mindset, victim mindset, you can't tell me what to do mindset. They just won't grow up. And I think in this kind of a case, you need to be, at some point, those boundaries that you have created, there's going to need to be ultimatums with them. Because if you keep violating them and he sees there are no consequences, because, all right, well, I don't get to sleep in the bed, but that's all right. I got to watch my porn. Maybe we need some more boundaries.
Well, and I think you hit the nail on the head with this particular case. It's, there's a difference between stopping the behavior and changing. You talked about it, if there's no change in behavior, there's really no recovery. It's just perhaps stop the behavior, although it's like, but I'm still dangling that over your head. I can still go watch my porn, so it really is the emotional immaturity, and I feel sad. I feel sad for the partner that's living with us. I feel sad for the person that's choosing. I mean, it's a very hollow life, and it's really sad, but it ultimately is a choice. So, okay, next one. This is the first and only thing I asked, begged him after betrayal. Please do not leave me alone. Stay with me. Do not abandon me like you always did. I did not ask him for anything else at that point. He agreed and kissed my hands. We signed a contract together, and he still left me. I am crushed. He has left me twice before, but I did not know about the betrayal then. I feel he literally ruined my life, my health, and the look on the world. So I
Right.
think her outlook on the world.
I can fully understand why you would look at that and say, he has ruined my life, he ruined my health, and the way you look at things and his perspective. However, there is still life to be lived. There's still opportunity for you to, enjoy things in life. we need to be able to rise above and not to give someone the power to crush us. And he took this second opportunity, and he crushed you. So now it's going to be your choice of what do I do here? Do I rebuild the pieces? Do I pick everything up and start to move on to understand, okay, you know what? My world will no longer evolve around him. Okay. And whether, if you're a Christian or not, and your world revolves around Christ, or, it's your friends that you have and yourself, building yourself to be able to say, you know what is going to make me a stronger individual? What's going to give me this opportunity that I can, go beyond just, hey, tell me you're not going to leave me and let's, agree on this contract. But here are my other boundaries that I'm going to put in my place to protect myself from you because you're not safe. And I think, like I said, I understand why you're feeling this way. But if you do what you need to do from a work perspective, you will not always feel this way. There is an opportunity to change, to get healthy, to feel better about yourself, and to continue to live a really good life.
And she asks a follow-up question, but which is there a timeline for recovery for betrayal without the spouse? How long does it take in general?
I think it takes about the same as it does even if you do have the spouse there. And again, we're talking anywhere from 12 to 24 months. Sometimes it goes a little bit longer. Sometimes it goes a little bit shorter. It depends on the effort and time you put in. If you surround yourself with good, healthy people, if you have that support group of people who you can lean on and be able, people who've been in your shoes, who know what this is about, plus those friends that you have outside that you can also, hey, it's a bad day. It's just a rough day today. I'm going to have them. You're going to have those days. But to be able to just say, you know what, just maybe we can get together and have, a cup of coffee or whatever, just chit chat. And then it's also finding those new lifelines you're going to bring into your world. What are your new hobby? What are your new interests? What are the things that you wanted to enjoy that maybe you've never enjoyed before? Maybe you've never taken a chance to do before. It's about learning to say life goes on. My life is not over. It may feel like it at the moment, but it's not. And I will get as much out of life as I put into it.
And I agree. And my thought was, you're grieving the loss of what you thought you had or what you wanted to have, because it isn't grieving the loss of what you had. He's a liar. He signed a contract and he still left, so he was unable to, I'm just calling it straight. He was unable to be honest with himself and with you. He either signed that contract believing he could follow it, or he signed the contract knowing he was lying. And I don't know which. We don't. Mm-hmm. I love what Eddie said about, so Dr. David Fawcett, one of the webinars he did, so it's in the previously recorded webinars, he did one on resiliency. And I thought people either had resiliency or they didn't. And he shared about how people, it's like a muscle, you have to build it up. And so you have resiliency that you haven't even tapped into. And that muscle may be a little weak right now, but you can build it up, and you can not let him crush you. I'm very practical. Dr. Rob laughs at me because I'm very pragmatic. And so, but I go, okay, what can I do in this day that will, make me feel better, that will make me feel like I am taking on the situation. When I'm really stressed, I clean, or I paint, like the walls will change a color because it refreshes things. It gives me, a different perspective, whatever. But like I do something that is visual, that, that changes something where I can actually, make a difference. And that helps me. I'm just saying that for me. I love, getting support. I can, like this whole stuff that's going on right now, like, I'm going to own, I felt sorry for myself because I was like, everything's being taken away from me. My 12-step meetings are no longer, I can't go to them. I can't go to the library, and then I went, wait a minute, that's a really dangerous place for me to go. And so I was like, okay, in this new reality, what can I do? And I've made a list of certain things that I find to be helpful for me. And, I'm staying focused on that list and doing those things rather than feeling sorry for myself. So it will take time, and the 12 to 24 months, you are grieving, so understand it's a grieving process. But I would like you to key in on, I'm grieving the loss of what I hoped for and what I wanted to have, not the reality of what was there. He wasn't able to show up for you. So there's
Great
another,
point.
go ahead.
Great point. That was a great point that you said.
So the next question is, over 1 year since D-Day, I had an episode of anger that felt more like shame. I feel ashamed, so much shame, the secret. What are tools for working through shame? And I'm unsure about if this is the partner or the betrayer. So,
I would
but
like
let's
to know
answer it
that.
from either perspective.
Yeah, all right. So from the perspective of someone who had done the betraying, um, yeah, it's normal to feel the shame, it's normal to feel the guilt. But, one of the keys to helping to ease that is, again, going back and understanding why. Why have I got caught up in this world? How did I get there? Okay, and it's the betrayed spouse.
Right. Yeah.
So, but let me just stay here for a moment. It's going to help them because now it's like, ooh, okay, I identify myself differently. It's not like, again, like I'm a pervert or whatever. I'm broken. I have a brokenness within me that I can fix. I can fix because I know what's going on. And with that now empowers me to be able to move forward. So the betrayed spouse, again, the idea of shame. What are tools for shame? Well, I think first and foremost, and I'm going to say this, but I know it's not easy. You have no reason to feel shame. You really, you don't. You have no reason to be ashamed. Now, you may feel embarrassed with some of your friends and some of the people who know what may have happened, but whatever happened in that relationship with your partner, that would have happened with anyone else. Now, I could exchange you for anyone else in the world, and he or she would have done the same thing. It is not about you or that there's anything wrong with you. They may have made you feel that way. They may have thrown that at you. And well, if you would have just this, or if you had done this, or you didn't do that, lies. They're all lies. And you have to start to understand and start to separate what you feel from what is real. Okay, what's reality? Okay, maybe I feel that sense of shame. Maybe I feel like I didn't do it. No, but reality is he or she would have done it no matter what. Again, that's where you start to really remove the shame, when you start to look at it through the lens of what is real. And again, if you want to bring the Christian aspect of into it also, you look at it from the perspective of God, and that God does not look at us and have shame. God doesn't say, stand in front of me and bring your shame. What he says is, show me your shame so I can remove it from you. Not that I can sit there and point it out to you and belittle you for it. Let me remove it, because no prince or princess of a king should wear shame.
So, I posted in the chat some previously recorded, and I love what you said about, you could replace with anybody. And, that is true. It's disconcerting to think that, but it's also really true.
It's true
So
though.
my friend Kristen Snowden, who does the second week, so she did, last week,
Mhm.
but she did one on shame, and she used some of Brene Brown's information, and she's talked about how shame is a useless emotion. Guilt can motivate us, and shame is just a useless emotion. So I'd invite you to go look at that previously recorded webinar with hers, and I'd mentioned Dr. David's on building resilience. It's in the same thing. You can find them on those previously recorded. But and Brene Brown does a lot of work about forgiveness and shame and everything else. But Dr. Rob, his book Prodependence talks about that too. It isn't you. In fact, on his webinar on Monday night, somebody said, why isn't there like treatment for partners? And he goes, you're not broken. You're hurt and traumatized and you are affected by the addict, but the addict's the one that's broken. They're the ones that need treatment, and you need support while they're getting in touch with being able to deal with life and emotions and things.
But
So
as you know, Tammy, they do such a great job of gaslighting and
yeah,
making it look like,
yeah,
oh, you're the problem.
you're the
And,
problem,
and,
right?
and, and what happens, you start to believe it because
Yeah,
again, you don't know what to believe anymore. Because you're being told, don't believe what your eyes see or
yeah.
what your ears hear. Just believe what comes out of my mouth. And after a while, you don't know what's up and what's down because you're just so confused by all of it. And that, it's just natural. Any of us who have been gaslighted understand the power of that emotional manipulation that goes on. But again, that's why you need to be able to sit there and decipher between what is true and what are lies. Because when you're stuck in that shame, you are definitely focusing more on the lies than you are on what's true.
Well, and that's why we created the Betrayed Partner and all the other resources. But we've got a Betrayed Partner drop-in group today at 12:30. So it's Wednesday at 12:30 Pacific time. And that's where other people who are in a similar situation as you, can support you. You can share how you're feeling. They can, if you invite, feedback, they can talk about what what they've experienced and how they've been gaslighted or how they felt that same thing, how they, what tricks that they have used to overcome that. But honestly, I think just sharing, there's I think that's why 12-step meetings are so powerful for us, because it's an opportunity to put it out in the light, because the worst place for me to have stuff rattling around is between there, because then I feel all those negative emotions, about that. And I can convince myself I'm the worst person on the planet and, I'm whatever, So if I say, Eddie, here's what I did, and, and he can go, well, that wasn't your finest move, but, welcome to humanity. Well, gosh, I feel a whole lot better just sharing it, bringing it out into the light.
Yeah, and sometimes you need somebody that you do share with, like you said, in order to be able to help me decipher between what I feel and what is real. So yes, being able to find those trusted people, whether it's a support group or a good friend, and being able to put out, this is what, again, I feel, and let them give you, well, I'm not quite sure I'm seeing it the way you are.
And I've had that where, I've done something or said something, and, then I started exploring it, and, it like the mountain that I made out of something, like, in fact, I've apologized to people, about, try to make amends, and they were like, what? I said, well, and they're like, so it's just so interesting to get outside perspective, on what is really going on. But I also, my heart goes out to the person, that was talk about being crushed, because, that feels like you're pulling yourself up, out of a hole, a pit that, that he helped shove you down. And, but I want to assure you that there, like I said, go to the Betrayed Partner support group, you know, even if you're not in a relationship now, because there's other people there that will be reaching out their hand and going like, we can help you out of this.
You need to keep putting one step in front of the other. And yet there may be days when you can't take that next step. And that's when you lean on somebody else, and then you just get back and you continue, or maybe you need to take a break for a day, but then you just keep moving along. Because as you continue along that pathway, like I said, that's coming out of that hole, you're going to find, ooh, you know what? There's a whole new world out there. It's a whole new world. But I'm so trapped in here, kind of got your blinders on because of the pain, the tremendous intensity of the pain. And you got to let those blinders and say, whoa, there is a lot more for me.
Agree. So thank you so much, Eddie. Thank all of you for joining us and asking your questions. We really value that. This is recorded, so this will be on YouTube as well. We'll look forward to seeing you next week. Troy, oh, my cat's Sam. Troy Love will be doing his Wednesday morning next week. So join us then. And I'll see you next month, Eddie.
All right. You take care.
Bye.